The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pitfalls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion Mayday, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pitfalls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion Mayday, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pitfalls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion Mayday, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pitfalls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion May Day, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellow Bird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pitfalls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion May Day, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellow Bird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pitfalls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion May Day, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellow Bird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all outliers. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion May Day, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all outliers. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion May Day, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all outliers. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion May Day, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pitfalls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion May Day, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, two-time Best in Show and two-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pitfalls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off Grand Champion May Day, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, two-time Best in Show and two-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pitfalls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels.
We here. Big shout out to everybody out there in the Shark Tank and out there on the back street. Let me get my shout outs right quick. Get them out the way. Big shout out to my man, Mr. Derek Lockett in the house. What up, fam? Representing the D, my man Chico Nicholas. What up, fam? May Mori Nagayashi. What up, fam? Big shout out to Welsh Kennels, Welsh Pitbull Max Supplements representing. What up, fam? Yo, K-Walk, I see you, fam. Biking World family, what up, fam? Oak man, what up, man? I hope I didn't miss nobody. My little time thing is running behind. Hey, y'all. Again, thank y'all for showing up. Have missed y'all Tuesday. Couldn't make it. A little under the weather. Busy day. But we're here for Friday. Tonight, this Mo show tonight. You know, he gonna do what Mo do. He in his feelings and everything. You know how Mo is when he get in his feelings. So I'm gonna go get ready. I'm gonna just turn this over to him, and y'all can just roll out from there. Hey, don't forget, hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Watching the chats, got any comments you want to, have some input on it. I'm gonna open up the hotline. We just call in and we go from there. You know what I'm saying? But big shout out for everybody for showing up. Now it's time for us to show out. What up, y'all? Thank all y'all for coming out. I guess I'm doing the show tonight. And I'm looking at we get on the bus and we're always taking that ride back to the past. And I get a lot of guys asking me about, my opinion on the future ahead. Let me give a big shout out to my man Pitwise Kennels in the house, coming in with a 10-piece show on the lug. And this party started out right. He said, let's get it. What's good, Bulldog fam? Yeah, we're looking at, the moving forward part. Now, I know it's, some of you guys out there be like, I sure would like to know more opinion on the now. And all I can tell you about the now is based on me doing some more, put some hydrogenic shit in the bus and do a Back to the Future. You know what I'm saying? Head up there and be up there looking like the Indians used to look after, the Americans took their land from them and started building shit on it. I'm looking like one of them. I always make that little crack right there. And what I see, you know what I'm saying? Well, if you notice, even back in the day, in our time, when David Tan and Tom Gardner and Kenny, a lot of dog men got busted. Okay, this is not really nothing new, because a lot of them got busted. Black, white, it didn't. The color wasn't an issue. They was all getting busted. It's just like, let's talk about the ones that went away, like Floyd Boudreaux. Pat Patrick, me, Ozzie Stevens. No, Pat Bill got found guilty. I'm talking about guys who actually was found not guilty.
You know what I'm saying? But in them not guilty, you're losing yards. Walk them all. They didn't even have to plead. You know, but look what you're losing. You know what I'm saying? Look what they're wiping out. So even though there was no forward movement, no real true convictions in none of those cases, you know, they still killed dogs. You know what I'm saying? The damage has already been done. You know, everybody don't have Floyd Boudreaux kind of money with Floyd, you know. In the end, he still probably got about 55 grand. If that much, dogs didn't have no value. They only have value to us doggers out there that, you know, back then, you know, where there was value to those dogs. You know, I guarantee you take one of them old AKC champions that we see trotting all across the screen, picking up them awards, guarantee you grab him and put him up for hostage. You know, I guarantee they ain't gonna pay you no cheap money. But let his ass run out there and get somebody run up on the sidewalk and run you and the dog over. And watch how much they pay you for that dog. The dog has very little value. They wouldn't give a damn what he was. You know, animals, the very same thing they give us years for. Let somebody wrongfully run over your dog. Yeah, $20,000 dog you didn't spend your money on, and they only talking about 1,000. Tangible property, you know. You have to think about that. You know what I'm saying? And don't think they don't know what they doing. You know, and the media is just as bad because everybody lying. If you really got into these cases, I mean, really got down into the meat of these cases, the media is just as much as at fault. Now, what are they at fault about? It's not the fact that they're against the dog fighting part of it. That's not what they're at fault about. They're at fault about the lying. You know, blowing shit up, blowing it all out of proportion, trying to make major news to get emotion. And if you notice, they'll hurry up and put shit like that on TV, you know, because they already got a weak case. So the best way to spoil a weak case is to make it something that it ain't. That's why they just splurge all over the news with it. You know, I mean, they be making it like, what? I mean, they be seeing treadmills and breaking sticks. Like, what the hell? Like, that is something really wrong with that. You know, but it's called that public influence. Now, we all be feeling like, you know, the media, the media. Well, you gotta remember now, the media does news for the people, but they need the cahoots of the police, the courts, and all these other places. So they all work hand in hand. See, when the media want to sell and get views, they gonna blow up a story. And in the process of doing that, you blow it up enough, you're gonna damn near taint a jury. Even if a lot of this stuff don't make it in front of a jury, believe me, most of the time, you look at the P. Diddy thing, you know, everybody knows what's going on with that dude. You know what I'm saying? The way they publicize now, I can guarantee you, a lot of this shit gonna be some bullshit. A lot of it's gonna be some bullshit because I look at my case, I looked at Ozzy's case, I looked at Floyd's case, and I looked at Patrick's case. And each time, because we have a lot of dogs, it is so easy to go down and say, you know, and get a judge to sign a search warrant with really probable cause can be just what they tell the judge. You know, and like in my case, they went and got a search warrant and they didn't have no pictures of any dogs or anything in the shape that they went and got that search warrant for. No pictures, but you got a judge to sign it. And once it's signed, then he come the clown show. Michael Vick, he got it good compared to the way some of these guys is getting it, because whether they can't, everybody can't be guilty. You know what I'm saying? And how do you explain? Again, and I made this comment before. Okay, we have accidents. You know what I'm saying? You have accidents. I mean, if you in places that you have your dogs in cages, where you can't put them out on the chain, you have worser accidents because you're trying to put these dogs up in these kennels. And if you know what a bulldog will do, you got to damn near put metal as separators. Because even the two nice ones that's next to each other never has a problem. But then all of a sudden one day you come home and they've been fighting through the fence. One of them's leg is down there chewed off because they just got their foot pulled through the fence. You know what I'm saying? Or things like that. And then what do? Do you take your dogs over to the vet and tell the vet, my dog's got to fighting in the cage? And what the vet gonna do? Treat you like a do they call the police on you? Like they do the hospital when you bring your child in, wounded. First thing they want to think about is child abuse, dog abuse, and you trying to take your shit to save your shit on accident. Now you find yourself explaining yourself. Next thing you know, you're gonna find yourself with the people all in your yard, at your house. And the other thing is, if you got pit bulls, there's already a profile, a stigma on you anyway. The first thing they do when you see somebody walking down the street with a pit bull, and really it don't really matter much what color, because they associate pit bulls and drugs and gangs. This is the association. So, you're already being profiled. You can't have an accident on your yard. And if you do, you're damned if you do, don't report, and you're damned if you do report. So what do you do? How do you end up risking your life on an accident, which all dogs get loose? I mean, it's really almost impossible. I'm telling you, you tell me one guy who's been in these damn dogs that didn't have a damn dog get off those chains, I wouldn't give a damn how hard you secure those dogs down. It happens. I mean, I hear guys being like, they got treadmills, but, at the same time, they worried about having it like they got contraband or something. But what if we was raising, I have Malin walls, and now what am I supposed to do with my treadmills? I can't have a treadmill with the Malin wall. Well, what's the difference between having a treadmill with the Malin wall and a treadmill for the pit? They're both dogs. I didn't put specific names to them. I called them dogs. Dogs run treadmills. We're down, just because, this dog is a pit bull. You down there saying there's probable cause of Lily being able to come on your yard because you got your dog out there running on a treadmill. And they ain't gonna come on your yard to investigate and nothing. They're gonna take all your dogs, call your dog fighter, throw it on the news. You gotta break the sticks, you got medicine, You know what I mean? They say all the wrong, the things that make it look like something that it's not. And to me, it poisons. It makes the judges biased. And, because they're supposed to be supposed to be the justice is supposed to be blindfolded, and she's supposed to be a good listener. But we all know that's not true. I hate to call judges biased, but there's just some cases where their decisions be based on emotions. Prosecutor asking for 9 years, and the judge wanting to get 10 and a half, and he does it. Why did he do it? Because he felt a certain type of way. That's still him feeling a certain type of way. I don't know. You recommend a 9, I think he needs 10. What's the difference? You're in a position, and you're definitely showing emotion. Prosecutors the one prosecuting the case. They don't give out presents. That's for a judge to step in and feel like that ain't enough. That's saying it ain't satisfying his hunger of justice. To me, I look at that like, it's still an emotional thought, which, it's hard to accept, especially when some judges, once you start that, you do that. And I've been through the system enough time to see once they start doing it, they always do it. Or at certain particular times, especially when it comes to this thing with dogs. You see a lot of these things. You see PBK, he get a satellite news. But a lot of these cases, if you really look a little closer into them, these weren't real. You had those dog men like Malcan, yeah, but if you come from that world, do we really throw Malcan out there like that? No, we don't, because the man, he really didn't. He didn't do dogs. He bred his dogs. He got great bred dogs, and he did it that way. Tell me anybody that ever known Malcan to match a dog. And that's coming from the dark side of things. You know what I'm saying? That's just information throughout the history of the game, because they've been around. Nobody's ever going to that man to buy some damn match dogs. They usually go there and buy dogs because they was bred good. You know what I'm saying? He had several good bloodlines, but he had a lot of good bred dogs. So, the assumption, you got to look at it like that, because, I dealt with the same old thing. The assumption. Now, it's been different if you've been messing around with me in the 80s and the 90s, and you did that, you might have been on something, But you can't come in the 2000s and snatch up a yard of young dogs and call me a dog fighter. And then a damn dog on the yard, but one had scars, and he had so many scars on him that they were so old, they couldn't determine when they happened or how they happened. Because that's my argument. The best way to prove a person is fighting a dog is to catch them fighting a dog. You know what I'm saying? The other way to catch a person fighting dog is like anything else. You give me 2 witnesses, so it don't be a he say thing. We got an extra witness to come with our witness. Now it's you against these 2 here. And them is usually the ones that they catch with compromising situations and positions where they take those 2 guys or take those 2 CIs or CWs. They come in many names and forms. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And they come through there, and there's no problem with them getting up there telling a lie. They got to be real specific. When you talk to them, want to tell on somebody about fighting a dog, you got to really literally be telling on yourself. You got to first tell on yourself. Okay, then we're going to give you a pass. Now you're going to tell us everything that we need to know about what he was doing. That you know. That you can testify to. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of situation where you don't want nobody coming to your house. Because in your time, I'm looking back, and I'm still back here in my time, and I'm looking at what's happening back in my time. You know, they was having raids all up in Detroit, all down there in North Carolina. I mean, they was doing it back then. You know, but it wasn't really the major kennels. When they started hitting the major kennels, I mean, trying to, you know, eradicate the game dogs, because it's not like they don't know the game dog in the lineage, because the United States Department of Agriculture, who controls all these federal and local, you know, investigations in the use of dogs being bred for dog fighting, you know, and they have the journal. They got all the journals. They got them all laid up in one of them big old government computers. They just punch in the name, and, you know, in seconds, like AI, they give you all the information of the different kennels, and, you know, they can put going hard in there, and that thing, you know, if you got all the journals in that computer, that journal, that all those journals are going to pop up in that computer, going to tell you what page and all. But the thing, here's my argument. Even with that, that's like the break and stick in the treadmill. To have these things are, you know, what makes it criminal. To have this podcast and talk the way we talk, what makes it criminal? Did that mean y'all breaking a crime, you know, for being in here listening to this shit? You know what I'm saying? Backstreet. I know why backstreet people stay in the backstreet. Because they probably like enjoying the show, because it is historical. It is, I mean, and we know all this is fictional. What I always tell y'all, what's the main thing I always tell you? All this is, what makes it fact? If everything that we talk about is fictional, what makes it fact? You got to been there. You should be knowing who, when, and where. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you a story. You know what I'm saying? The only way that you know it's factual, you had to be there. Other than that, I'm telling you the story. And you used to ask me, well, where was it? I can't tell you who, when, and where, bro. So what kind of witness would I be? If I can't tell you who, when, and where, but I can give you a good story, though, can't I? You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. There's a big difference there. For guys that be panicking, you know, and then some people ask, well, how can y'all talk like that? Well, because this is old news. And so what? I mean, I look at podcasts and our history talks and us having fun on here as a big fictional community. Because in any one of these things, you cannot just, but look, they talk about Jeep and his days in the game. They talk about Buck and they tell you even who he went into. You can go find this stuff right there on YouTube. Is it illegal? No, you know, YouTube ain't doing illegal shit. It's not illegal. It's actually protected. But let them catch that shit on your phone or on your video. You know what I'm saying? And you having a dog encounter. Why should your YouTube history be pertaining to, you know, the history of the dogs that be on there? How or why would that be used for evidence against you to that's supposed to make it a point that you're a dog fighter? See, these are the things that I'm looking at now And the question is why I ask now. No, these are the issues that y'all dealing with now, and y'all just don't get it. Y'all need to. I'm still seeing dogs, where guys is having fun, showing off their little hot puppies. First of all, even if we was in the basement, and this has nothing to do about being on no YouTube or Facebook or none of that. I'm just being real with you, coming dog man to dog man. That is not a pretty sight to see puppies do that. For every dog man back in the day, they would tell you, every time you do your dog, you're taking something out of them. You don't know that limit until they show it to you. That's why you have so many great ones end up losing. Because you kept taking them to the well. You think you know them better than they know themselves, and then they surprise you. You got to know their limit. Anytime you put you see how puppies do what they do. We see all different breeds of dogs do that. I have Malinois that fight just as hard as pit bulls as puppies. You know what I'm saying? It don't make no sense to let that happen. You got to separate them. You got to take the alpha because, you take that one out, guess what? There'll be a new alpha by the end of the next day. Puppies, those are just puppies being puppies. So it's just beyond my understanding of why would you try to show off your dogs using puppies, especially on Facebook and YouTube. You're giving the media fuel. You're giving them fuel. Not everybody, are activists. Some people just have pit bulls and want to know the history of this shit. And it's just entertaining because that's what it's supposed to be. It's what it's really supposed to be. It's not like everybody's 700 and close to 750,000 views. And some of these guys have been doing this shit for years. They got over 1 million views. So that make what's illegal about that? What makes that something wrong? And evidently it can't be because you don't see no widespread of bus coming through these channels here, snatching people up. But you hear them always talking about WhatsApp and all these other things where these guys is getting on here like they pagers. The new modern day pagers where you typing out a story thinking that y'all the only one in the room. And then they exploit it. When once they get your shit, they exploit it and they want to tell everybody to make the world seem like, this is a problem. No, back in my time, it was a problem. See, this is not a problem because guys, there's no such thing, and I don't believe there's over 2,000 matches in a year going on in these United States of America. It's just not happening. So while they're trying to blow it up and make it something of a major concern or just major drive, all I see is a push to eradicate the game-bred bulldog. I can guarantee you when you start, nobody's out there matching no XL. You got a lot of people out there got these big, nice, pretty ones, and they look beefy and solid, and then that look, gives them something to brag about. And all of a sudden now he's Jeep. Oh, he'll beat Jeep. He'll beat Mayday. You hear that crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? But believe me, society be ready to give those dogs a chance before they continue to give these pit bulls a chance. Because they're constantly sectoring it into the world of drugs, gangs, streets. And for you guys, And like I said, when is the day that they're going to actually raid a dog show, especially somewhere down here in Florida, where we see, at the confirmation shows the dogs drive. The dogs drive. I mean, come on. Is there a certain difference when it comes to them turning their eye to something that they know outside of this dog show you're going to call baiting, and you can end up taking out all my dogs and putting me in jail and trying to make me a dog fighter because I got a treadmill, some breaking sticks, all because, of a baiting charge. A baiting charge is no charge if you go to a dog show and you see these dogs doing the very thing that I was doing. But it's okay. And like y'all was saying, hey, you get points for that. You get points for that. Don't y'all see that? Did you see the other risk? Let us get a ADBA, not even an ADBA show, just our own community of what we call the underground, like South Bottom in there. You know what I mean? Imagine that. Imagine that we start doing that right there. You think we won't get our shows rated if we choose to stand out there and get points for that type of behavior when we know that it's part of the ADBA concept? Go on YouTube, look for yourself. Like they say, it's not like it's not uncommon. We see it. I've seen it in a lot of dog shows. But guess what? Based on the law, it doesn't say anything about you can get away with it at a dog show. Well, if I got to do this for a dog show to win trophies and get my best points, how am I supposed to teach my dog how to do that way he look good? It's not like we got to teach him to do it, but don't you want to see it before you get into the arena in a competition? And nobody's not going to tell me that you wait till you get to a show to let your dog, bark and face the other dog and act the way he acts. There's no way in the hell you're going to tell me that's the only time you do that. Not when you're taking your dog in the competition. You better believe your ass is doing it at home. No way in the hell you're going to tell me you're not. And that goes for everybody that do shows. They don't have nothing to do with doing nothing wrong. But that's just a part of the training aspect of it. I'm a dog trainer. You already know. There's nothing that I'm going to do as far as putting my dog in any type of competition and not knowing what he's capable of doing until I get there. Does that make sense? No. So can't nobody tell me, that the ADBA is getting passes. Why are they getting these passes? That they can continue doing something that in other states is really against the law. Get your yard taken. If you're trying to do some shit like that at home and then try to tell the people, well, we got a dog show coming up, that's part of the competition, what they get graded on. We're not trying to fight the dogs. We're trying to show their drive. Do you think that ought to stop them from snatching up your dogs? Lord knows you got treadmill and breaking stick, you're going to be on the news. And that's just keeping it real. This is the reality. And then I ask you, again, guys, in your time, what's worth it? Whether you're doing wall climbing, treadmill, and weight pulling, all these things still consist of conditioning. All these things still takes the chances of accidents happening. You know what I'm saying? All these things require equipment and medicine and vitamins and needles. You see what I'm saying? All these things require these things. How do you feel that it's going to grow when you find out, is it really worth it? Even when you're not doing nothing at all. Because society has not separated none of this, because we're not big enough to stand up and fight for that understanding. Everybody's off in their own little pockets, but there's questions that needs to be answered, because those cases out here that's making the satellite news, they're really not as strong as you think they are. There's a lot of dogs being put down. There's a lot of charges being thrown around. And it really does have a lot to do with if you were at one time in your life, you know what I'm saying, and you didn't get caught. And when they come and take your yard, you still haven't got caught, then you don't have no business with a case. Because to call me a dog fighter, you better damn near catch me in the box. And that goes for guys that, like I said, Lord help you if you get a dog off the chain. You'll lose your whole yard because of those two dogs. And how are you going to explain it if you don't have no cameras to prove it? Or no broken chain. And Lord knows you better have a video of the chain broken and seeing the dog scamper across there, and the next thing you know, you look, you can't help that. There's something that happens. But if you don't cover yourself, they'll take your whole yard and your treadmills and your medicine and your magazines and turn you into David Tant, Michael Vick. Knowing, being honest, that you weren't doing anything anyway. It'd be a frustrating case for you to deal with because you wasn't doing anything, and it's the way, that part is barely getting, through their head. Lawyers don't act like they know how to defend it. You know what I'm saying? The best way to get rid of the evidence is for them to say that, your dogs were animal aggressors and they had to put them down. That's the quickest way to get rid of your shit. So, now you got to defend that. Your dogs were, like most of the puppies, they ain't aggressive anyway. But now they putting shit down, and what's their excuse? No, we couldn't find them good homes because they could, they was too aggressive or this or that. They couldn't be reverted in. You hear, we're gonna put them in, new homes and all. Yeah, they be killing them dogs. And then they come out and tell the public, these dogs was mean. They couldn't be changed. From the cruelty of the dog fights and all. Man, look, I know all that was some bullshit when they did that same old shit to my yard, and I had a yard full of puppies. A yard full of puppies. Yeah, they were hot dogs. But so what? How do you abuse a hot puppy who don't have no scars on him? Still a puppy. What could I have been doing to make them, where you rather put them down?
Give them the age of the puppies, Mo.
Them puppies was 13 months old. The other puppies was just turning 6-7 weeks old. And that was the majority. They killed 10 dogs. And those were the puppies involved. There wasn't but 2 grown dogs on the yard, Sassy Girl, Little Sassy Girl, and Roger Ramjet. Everybody else were kids. You know, but it's easy to do. How can you fight that? You can't. They got you. You know, they didn't kill your shit. That was the main thing that killed me. Is they killed the dog. And then they used this line like, you're not gonna get these dogs to go home. They weren't no good to nobody. They was vicious and they was animal aggressive. I forgot about Carnivore. Yeah, she was an older dog. She was still young, but she was older than the rest of them. But yep, Carnivore. But just think now, in this whole story, I'm telling y'all, it's a lot of this relates to you guys when you be surprised. A lot of you guys that come to these shows and goes to these, we like hanging around the different everybody. So I see everybody get around, because really that's really the only, entertainment you can really get out of the dog game, because it really ain't, no real book out here to really bring things out. The best y'all getting is these YouTube channels of us old dudes, even though y'all want to talk about it, but we y'all entertainment to keep y'all going. If you ain't doing nothing, at least you feel, the historical value and the entertainment out of these shows. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of us show up at all these different shows, even though most of them don't be about shit, not talking about the show themselves. But it's not too many people to carry the pedigree of what, this show and J-Bo and Tom and 7, 8 in that panel. It's not too many of those real ones out there. Don Mayfield made him one. You see Tom Gardner, he sits out there and he talks about his title dogs, all, in the now aspect. Lord knows, let me do some shit like that. And y'all, if y'all seen the video, I'm keeping it real. Yeah, but again, I just saw a video with Tom talking about his dogs and their title. Now, that title could be a show title. It could be any one of those, but we all know Tom Gardner got champion better at bred dogs. So what makes him any different than Malcamp? And I don't never remember Malcamp being on no YouTube channel talking about the dogs of not only the past, but the dogs that he has now. Not throwing him under the bus, but because he put it out there. I'm just trying to figure out what's the difference here. What are we dealing with? What's going on here? And being convicted dog fighter. Let's keep that up there in the makers too. For him to even be able to do that, not knocking him, because there's got to be something with what we doing on these channels that's supposed to protect us. Because to be honest, with Tom doing that, it's still hearsay. It's still fictional. There's no damn proof. It really ain't. He can sit there and say that, but is he really telling y'all the truth, or is he just lying? It doesn't matter. No, we're gonna come to listen to him anyway, ain't we? Because that's Tom Gardner. To be honest, it's literally hearsay. There's no facts behind that. But why does it work for some people, yet it doesn't work for most of us?
I want to give a big shout out to my man Bloodthirst, #1, aka Habit 360 in the house, coming through with a 2-piece showing the love. Appreciate that, fam. I see ya.
Anybody saying anything, Mike? Anybody feeling me?
I want to give a big shout out to my man Eli Monster, my man Johnny Rockets. I see you, fam. Borderline Kennels, Breezy's in the house. What up, fam? RBG Lone Wolf, what up, fam? My main man, Mr. Burning Star in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to Kerr, Hunter, Kennels in the house. What up, fam? Yo, Big Scratch TVG, I see you, fam. The insane honey badgers in the house. What up, fam? Tough times. What up, fam? Again, appreciate all my fellas for showing up tonight. Big shout out to my man Talk of the City, Kennels in the house. What up, fam? I don't know, yeah. Just in case I missed you, my main man, Mr. Dickie Foster. In case I missed you, what up, fam? I think I got you earlier, but hell, just in case. I'm done, Mo.
I said, anybody say anything?
No, except for you, right? Yes, sir.
That's it.
Tell me about the bloodlines and the these papers gonna be all black here, man. These pads should be all black.
Yeah. Well, Mike talking about the pedigrees, but they don't got to be all black though. See, my thing is on the all black thing, on the pedigrees, they already, you know, it just ain't gonna work because y'all running off the DNA. You'll try to say you're not. You know what's going on here, y'all. Y'all pedigrees got nothing but old school, and y'all want to just take that old school shit and just stick your name all on it and say, this is what I'm doing with it. Well, I guarantee if I go back in Europe, what you doing with it, guess what I'm going to see? Guess what I'm going to see? Some old ass shit. And it ain't going to be no bum ass shit either. It's going to be some nice bread shit. You got your hands on, now all of a sudden you're trying to make it you. But guess what you keep running to? You keep running there. Every time you talk shit about that shit, you running back to that back shit. Because really ain't nothing in the front worth a damn. Except for the fact it's coming off that back shit. Let's keep that thought in mind. See, I mean, I am one of them old schoolers that know pedigrees. Knowing damn well most of you guys out here just slinging these damn papers and very ones is talking about us old schools need to sit down. It's y'all turn now. You're using our shit because when it comes to your shit, it's because of what's on in that shit from our shit. Because really, without our shit, your shit wouldn't be shit anyway. And it really ain't shit because you're still just you're putting dogs together just coming out the back side of y'all pedigrees. And why? If y'all trying to do something new. You know, really, pedigrees do matter. You know, you want to make it yours, but it can never be yours. It can never be yours. It could be your whole new makeup of line and breedings, but you're never going to change the Maydays that's in your shit. You're never going to change the Eli, the Red Boy, all the other great dogs is in your back end pedigree that you want to call us. We all washed up and washed out, but you're still trying to make money off of our name because take our name out of it, you don't have nothing. There's nothing in the part of the history, that any average person who don't know will make them interested without what's going on in the back. Where did it come from? That's just common sense. A lot of these dogs are being bred for that purpose. But again, it's not against the law. And it's not like y'all doing anything wrong. Now, let's get into the visionaries. We're going to always have those visionaries out there. It's just, you got visionaries like you got crackheads. You know what I'm saying? Like you got fiends. There's some people out there, I had the disease my damn self. And what was the disease? Dogs. It wasn't the fact of the dog fighting part of it. It's the fact of the love of the dogs. I mean, bottom line, what average person is going to understand that? I'm trying to get an average person to understand why most drug addicted people go through some of the crazy shit because of their addiction. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for a society that kills shit for us to eat, you know, I think they put a lot of emphasis on a lot of things where, you know, they want you to kill. You know, where back in the day, you take a chicken out there and chop his head all right there on the little tree you cut down. You know what I'm saying? Lord knows the neighbor next door might call the goddamn police on your ass. You back there chopping chickens and shit. You know, the way I looked on YouTube, the way they had that little thing, you know, that little thing that, you know, the way they be doing them chickens, stick that little collar on their head, and next thing you know it, you know, like that, you know, feet drop out and kick you and run around the ground a little bit. But it's so evidently it's not against the law. Evidently it's not animal cruelty if it's being played on YouTube. I'm sitting there watching a man literally skin a cow. I mean, break it down. I mean, broke it down like he was in a butcher shop. There's got to be a First Amendment and a 14th Amendment to protect these channels. Now, when it comes to the now compared back to the then, there was a lot more going on back then than what we're dealing with now. Yet you're still seeing people getting jammed up through the web. I'm not talking about the internet web. I'm talking about the connection between one person getting jammed up and just tossing names. Because remember how I told you how easy it is for somebody to go and get a search warrant to come in your house and take your dogs? And it really is easy. I've seen it done with no evidence. Nowhere in the hell you don't tell me it took that probable cause, came in, took my dogs, killed my dogs, and then I go to trial and get found not guilty. Tell me that's like your dog sniffed my damn car, alerted to my car, and then y'all went and searched my car, but you didn't find no dope in it. Don't y'all see problems with that shit? But the damage is already done. The damage is already done. What good was me being found not guilty? All this dog fighting shit. What was the purpose? When it didn't, I mean, it wouldn't have never been there if they had to stop right there with the probable cause to get the search warrant anyway. Or to sit there and tell me a dog hit on my car, where he's sniffing around my shit, where he alerted to it, yet you can't find shit in it. Now explain that. You got what you wanted, you got your search, but explain why you ain't finding shit. Do I call that shit a piece of shit ass dog? You know, the fact is that they get it off. And then they blow it up. And hopefully, you know, again, the media attention, you know, the way they talk about you, the way they put you down, the way they make like it's big news. Remember, me and my girl was constantly in the news, in the newspaper. I mean, a lot came on behind something for me to, in the end, become not guilty. The only thing I'm found guilty on is the very same thing that we do at dog shows. No different. If I was intended to fight the dog, what would stop me? If it was an intention to fight or the purpose of dog fighting. Is you telling us when we do this thing and get these points from the APBT, are we doing these things for the points of the confirmation, or are we doing and drive, or are we doing this for the purpose of dog fighting? Somebody have to explain that to me. You know, what's the difference if both look the same? These are the things, guys, these little things that I'm speaking on will get your yard snatched. I gotta hear me. to have over 5 dogs will get you investigated. This on GP. And don't be a lazy dog, man, that don't take care of your yard but every other day. They're going to be that one day that they catch you, and they will take your yard like it ain't, you ain't never tested before. Because some guys, and it's the truth. I've been around the game, I know. Some guys don't be, they come out there every other day, especially guys that got them in those secluded areas where they're out there, every other day. But the days that they do come out, they really take care of the yard, make sure they got a lot of water to last them 1 or 2 days. But you ain't gonna see no skinny dogs running around there. But just imagine on the day that you didn't come and they catch you like that. Bowls turned over, food pans, potties sitting there empty. They don't see what you do. They just take on what they see when they get there. And everything else is an assumption because it ain't like that. But hold on, Mike, go ahead.
This here is from a man, Viking Royal Family. He say, Mo, do you believe keep the inbred blood on the top or the bottom? And do you believe on talking about the blood you have from the past only if you have the paperwork to say you do, or it don't matter?
To me, paperwork, it's good to have ADBA because I'm an ADBA person. All my dogs were ADBA registered. You know what I'm saying? And these days, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because back in my time when it really mattered, guess what? We weren't being prosecuted for having them. But guess what? ADBA had to send me some shit. Because they went to ADBA with they orders. Yes. Yeah, they went to the ADBA. So you tell me, you know what I'm saying? If we ain't doing nothing wrong, should it matter? Then why would it matter to the point that they get in contact with ADBA and subpoena every dog that came out of Going Hard's name? My name. The thing about it, like I told y'all, one wise person there told me, this Palot, is put show cards on every dog that you register. That's good advice because guess what? When they got him, that's what they had and that's what you saw. Wasn't much help, all because the use of $2 show cards. Yeah, $2. Just add $2 to your registration per dog, and you get show cards. Whether you sell the dogs or not, sell them with the papers right along with the damn show card. Because when the popos want to go investigate and and here you is with your papers, when they go to ADBA, guess what? ADBA gonna have to send this shit because they're subpoenaed. And when they come with that information and that show ID. And that kills any assumption of what they call used for the purpose of dog fighting or breeding for the purpose of dog fighting. That's if you have papers. Now, does papers matter? Well, back in our time, they mattered because that's where we built I built, I would say, not just me, the family are Going Hard, built based on the past. Like they say back then, their past became our future. Remember, without their past, we wouldn't have Mayday. A lot of these great dogs, if it don't be for the past, we wouldn't have Tav. You see, a lot of that stuff is due to the past. So, if you got somebody, when you out here buying dogs and they don't have papers doesn't mean because they don't have papers, that's not the way they're bred. First of all, I wouldn't be buying no dog unless I understand what I'm buying. You know, remember I always tell you guys, I say, good bred dogs, they all have something in common. DNA, traits, genetics. You know, most buck dogs, you can tell them genetically. I mean, all the way down to the ones that slip off into the boils, to the ones that slide off into the Patrick, the Gaston, Untouchables, you know, STP, the Boils, all those Patrick dogs, they got that, they have traits in genetics. Even though they got all different branches going off this way and getting that way, but guess what? Those branches is on the same damn tree. How do you know? Because the genetics. You know, what's the purpose of having a line of dogs if you don't understand the genetics? You know, do you need a line of dogs to have genetics? To me, if you're trying to have a line of dogs, you need to have genetics. You need a foundation. There's no going to tell me that you know that you can do it without one. I mean, you're talking about something that never been done, and it was never a part of the plan when they was creating these great line of dogs. To keep it real. So dogs with papers, dogs without papers, what's the purpose anyway? The only time it really matters, and it don't really matter until the dog is worthy of the paper to be spoke of. And where did that fall in? That fall in my time. I don't understand much of that being a requirement in your time now. You know, if we're talking about the visionaries, you know, the visionaries, that's a whole new world. You're going to find most of your great dogs in the visionary world. Why? Because those are the ones that's passing the test in time. How do you know who they are? You don't. It still comes from a world of fiction, hearsay. You just don't know. And it's worse now than it was then. Why? Because back then they were proving points. Here and now, you know, the numbers are so dim, you know, and the generations are so dim. You got guys that's got champion dogs in their third generation, yet you got a puppy. As soon as you breed your dog, that dog was in the third generation, gonna be in the fourth generation. By the time you start moving these pedigrees around in a couple of years, there's not going to be a dog on the pedigree that you're going to recognize. You're going to have to go way back there and have a 16 generational pedigree to understand how your shit is bred. You know? And I hope that answers your question. It's not like there's any rules to that. You know, there's no rules to breeding your dog. There's no rules to selling your dog. You know, there's I would have to say integrity. You know, that's what it takes to be a good breeder. You got to have some integrity. If you got integrity, that means, you know, you're willing to put a good dog in a person's hand and spend their money for the dog. You know, the days of bragging about your dog is on an all new level in today's world. In yesterday's world, you brag, you put up or shut up. Oh, and you know, it's time to make some shit happen. You know, and if you're on that visionary life, then it happens. But that was back then. Like I said, 2,000, you know, a year, come on. And that doesn't seem like a lot compared to the views that these YouTube channels get. These YouTube channels get hundreds of thousands a year. You see what I'm saying? Because it's all second hand, and I don't even call it knowledge. Because it's not knowledge. You know, what we learn, we actually learn from these shows through entertainment, coming from guys who, you know, still, when you hear the story, how do you know? If you were to tell somebody my story, you know, would you make a good witness against me? That's my point. And this is how the game has progressed. You know, very few people heard David Tan's story. Very few people heard Don Mayfield's story. You know, they sit right there on YouTube and tell you their story, but everybody don't know the video. But a lot of guys that get around on these things and have become very wise and smart dog men from, you know, getting their entertainment by running through and understanding the history of the game. That's why you got so many fake ones out here just acting like they Ricky Jones and shit. Can't say they don't know shit. They know a lot. It's just they ain't done shit. Okay? That's a point in itself. So that's a lot of things that you deal with now. You know what I mean? It's the difference between back then when you couldn't move that freely. If you move too much, you know, like, you know, you used to hear me get on Walk 'em All. I mean, I got on Walk 'em All not because they weren't doing shit. I got on Walk 'em All because, you know, there's not too much validity into some of the shit that they was doing, you know, and that's just through self-experience, you know. That's all. Not saying that they weren't. I'm just saying that, you know, you got a lot of champions that, you know, look like they confirmation champions, or should be, and that's all I ever said. Can't say they didn't, you know. I mean, in the end, history proved, you know, what you had to say about him, make you question it, yeah. Because, man, he produced a lot of great dogs, yeah. You gotta give it to him. We know his shit wasn't fake, because they weren't coming off of this. They you know, they was other people winning. And that's the comparison that I use when I do that. You know, it's not being unfair to him, but again, I said I bred the Little John, and I seen a dog that didn't have no scars on it, and he was a 4-time winner. You know, but again, not saying nothing wrong about it, because I still got the breed off. Did the outcome turn out? I mean, when you breed the sassy girl with the great dog that she produced, you know, it just didn't click. Even though we did have 2 females with the Walk 'em All sassy stuff produced. You know, I did have some grandkids. I had a daughter that produced, and even she produced the winner. They didn't produce no champions, I don't think. But I think one of them got champion with, you know, one of the Walk 'em All females in there. But it's just such a big difference in you guys to have these dogs now. You know, especially the pedigrees that I see. A lot of our pedigrees that we go to, look at them pedigrees, y'all. Them pedigrees is down to 15, 30 years old. And then we got the nice new ones on there. There's no way in the hell, you know, we should be having conversations like, you know, you have a grand champion and you say, my boy got that dog now. Do that make any sense? I mean, it's still hearsay. Remember that. There's nothing wrong with that statement. Nothing wrong with the statement. But that very same statement and that pedigree can get you a probable cause of a search warrant. And then once they get that right there, you know, you got a problem, because everything that they do after that point, they're going to make you a dog fighter. even if you're not. You know, social media is getting, you know, it's really is the downfall to what's going on out there, because everybody see dollar signs. You know, everybody want the rep, the clout, you know, to be heard and known, you know, want to be recognized, something, you know, so you can't, like I said at the beginning of this show, you know, you can't tell the real from the fake. And you really can't. My thing is, why is it worth it today to even take those type of chances? To be all out here with all these Facebook group rooms. Everybody trying to be, you know, a great dog man. Everybody want to say they knew this person. Everybody want to know that they, you know, it's like nothing wrong with the know, but it's always going to be a fictional no. Act like, why do you have to try to press a point when it's fictional and it's hearsay? But you willing to get on the stand and testify to that just so everybody would know that, you know, that you did this? No, it don't make no sense, right? But this is what we get out of social media. I mean, if you really pay attention, we see it a lot in the chat rooms. You know, and yeah, that's, you know, that's what I'm on today. You know, guys got to be, it's a new adaptation to the name of the game now, the dog game. And guys, you got to, you know, you remember the last time y'all heard from me, I was telling y'all something wrong with me. You know, I must have been addicted to the dogs. You know what I'm saying? You know, my love was stronger for them than it was my you know, everything else, because in the end, they were always there when everybody else was gone. You know? I mean, again, shout outs to all the old great dog men that even gave their life for this shit. Some of them went to their graves, you know, and put down their whole yard just to make damn sure that their dogs was not going to be abused or anything like that if that something happened to them. They had their yard put down. And it's just, it's, you know, it's got to be a love for these dogs. And I think that's what's carrying in today's world, except, you know, it's too commercial. It's too upstairs being commercial, because you want a tree climber, you want a treadmiller, you want a confirmation, you want to, you know, cut the connection. You claim you want to cut the connection between the past and the now when it comes to the line of dogs, you know, but, you know, you'll be only lying. That's the only part that I'd be like, you know, that's the only part that I feel like 95% of the people selling their dogs, you know, have good dogs in their back of their pedigree, but want you to focus in on them for having those good dogs in their pedigree. My question is, what are we looking at when you want us to look at you, when the best part is back there in the back? That's your selling point. You're just trying to put your name because it's back there. And how many guys are out there buying bullshit? And what I call bullshit. Dogs that you're not happy with. Not saying what you're doing with them to call them bullshit. I'm calling them bullshit because you're not happy with them. And I hear a lot of guys out there not happy with the dogs that they're getting. Why? You know, I say traits speak for themselves. There's generations of dogs that still got traits that, 20 years later, I'm looking at dogs that has these old traits that was 20, 30 years ago. I'm seeing dogs with the traits. I could almost tell you of these certain traits that you can know that dog comes from a certain line of dogs. Only the great ones can do that. And when I say great ones, there's like Jeep, Buck, even Mayday, Yellow in some cases, Honey Bunch. They have these genetic points about them that they pass on that becomes real, to me, dominant. Like, I see a lot of Mayday dogs. And I can guarantee you there's some of these dogs that I don't even call them Mayday dogs. I call them Patrick dogs. Because Mayday's got Patrick in him. Buck got Patrick in him. Homer and them got Patrick in them. Bulls got Patrick in them. There's certain genetic traits coming off that Bolio dog that carries in these certain lines of dogs. Like they got their own branch, but they still coming off the same tree. And that's what makes the game so interesting to me. The progression. I wanted to be like them, and all I had to do was copy what they was doing, stepped into a whole new shell, and did not call it my own. I just made it happen, and then the world followed the lead, because that's exactly what happened. I didn't put my stamp on it and say I was the first one to do it. Everybody else copied off of me. It didn't even matter. The people who owned the dogs and goddamn self finally did it, and they need all the credit because they had the ingredients that had me doing it. If it don't be for those dogs, I would have never done it. But because I done it, maybe they didn't know, or maybe they didn't care if it worked or not. It was the animosity they had amongst each other. See, I didn't have no animosity against either one of them, but these were my dogs. And that's how I was able to do something that really made a fact change. And that was when they put those dogs together, history was made. But it was through my experiment and my attitude about I'm gonna do what I want. That's y'all beef, not mine. I was able to do that, and like I said, it's part of history. But yeah, man, I really wanted to just bring up the seriousness. We look at these things, man, and there's so many things that y'all really need to start looking at and considering. And being the dog comes to the show for the purpose of the entertaining part, we can go back in there. I like pulling up pedigrees. I like pulling up my old journals with the dog bites in them. Man, I'm into that. That's what I'm into. And if everybody ain't into that, that's probably why I ain't into doing it. Y'all got to, I like doing that, and I like analyzing pedigrees over everything else. I like speaking of the history of the great dogs and the stories and how these dogs, just looking at them and knowing who they are or what they did, shit. Richard Stratton made a living off of doing that shit. It's our turn. You know what I'm saying? He did it in an era that, I would call that old. But there have been so many other things that came, that really made the path of what's going on now such a commercial, asset to have these dogs, trying to maintain for what was going on for 20 years and try to bring it up 20 years later. Hey, that's a feat. And for, like I said, the dwellers, man, hats off. Because we still hear our stories. Remember, They're only stories. They're fictional stories unless you know the truth. I don't be knowing the truth. I just know the story. But if I don't know the truth, then I can't be witness to nothing but a lie. Unless you can prove it to me. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I talk the way I talk on these shows, because, ain't nobody going to jail because we're not doing anything. How are we going to be able to put this out there to our audience? This is a show. It's our audience. If I can't come to my audience and just step down into the dirt and get my ass on the bus and be able to talk where I feel like it's free to just open up and tell y'all shit, then I need to get off this damn show. If it's going to bring trouble to me and you. You see what I'm saying? Come on now. And that goes for all these shows. And you know the truth too, guys. Take all the dog fighters off of these shows. Stop putting up the old, good, great dog shows and tell me how this pit bull YouTube social media community gonna look. Well, we're gonna be nothing but a bunch of people slinging papers, telling lies, and showing pedigrees. And we're not going to be able to tell the real ones from the fake ones. And in the visionary world, the quality is going to go to shit because the competition is not going to be there. That's path law. That's the act of nature. When you start taking away, guess what happens? Shit start dying off. And if it cannot maintain the expectations of the greatness because it keeps dying off. It didn't say it started disappearing, it said it started dying off. And as it's dying off, guess what? All the good shit's dying off with it. So if you think it's going to still be as good as it was with what's left, if all the good shit is dying off? No. You take that from back here where I'm at and bring it all the way up here to where y'all at, and then take a look. What do y'all see? I'm just showing y'all what I see. But that's your world. Nothing bad about it, but the circumstances are understandable. I was just, putting it out there to all my viewers. Have y'all really ever thought about, the risk and shit that we go through to have these damn dogs, to the point that we still talking about these pedigrees like, and guys got pedigrees. Or one thing about a guy to say he don't care about how his dogs are bred. Or that guy who, I don't need no papers for my shit. Let me tell y'all something about that person. That person is not Maurice Carver. That person is not Earl Tudor. He's not Floyd Boudreaux. He's not David Tant. He's not one of those great breeders who lie about how their dogs is bred for the purpose of making money, but had the tenacity to have enough great dogs where it didn't even fucking matter if they had papers or not. So that person is talking that shit right there, you're not them. So that holds to a person like me, that's very little value, and it should be to a person like you out there, when papers don't matter. But you trying to sell me some shit. Or for some odd reason, you got somebody interested in your shit. Maybe it's the way you talk, the way you carry, but if you're not a visionary, and only the visionaries get credit to me. Because they are the smallest few in the proud left. Okay? And you got to go into that little small crowd of few and pick out history. And if you don't know where it's at, you're never going to get it. If you don't know what it look like, then you're never going to see it. So you tell me, what do you think it's going to be? Why do you even need it if you're going to be running meals and running up walls? I think pedigree shouldn't even be, if that's all you're going to do, why would it matter? Build from that. Build a generation of treadmill dogs. Build a generation of wall climbers. Build a generation of real great confirmation dogs. They already got them out there. You know, and let's see, lead the evolution, the visionary, you know, the history, because there's, like I said, there's few and the proud. And those are the ones that's bold enough. They got the tenacity and the sickness, you know, and the love of American Pit Bull to still carry honor into making champions and grand champions. Don't know who you are, don't know where you're at, but I know. As long as we got crackheads, we're going to have you. Because I was one of them. A crackhead. You know, it is an addiction and a love where you don't see wrong. And it's supposed to be my personal business back then, and a lot of it just that world is what it was built on. You know, there's always a sour apple everywhere. But the majority of the world, you know, especially in our world, we wouldn't be talking about none of these great dogs if it was in the chaotic mode that it's in now. You know? And it's really bad when you can go on Facebook and see all the people that wants to be Earl Tudor, Maurice Carver. You know what I'm saying? You know, they got them all out there. You might know what they're talking about, but they don't do what they're talking about. And it's all fictional any damn way, so they don't have to be telling the truth. Because it is fictional, unless somebody can prove it. All this shit is fictional. You know, and as long as y'all guys know that, you know, and take my points and my advice, because these feds, and I told you how they do shit. You know, it's like the days, y'all, when, you know, we be just standing out on the block and then the jump out teams just jump out there and throw everybody against the wall, start searching people. You know, that in itself is supposed to be illegal. You know what I mean? But for them to slow down the crime on the streets and the gangs that were starting to populate, and now you got this laundering law, you know, that really helping with these situations, you might be trying to help, but then you're getting a lot of innocent people. You know, we live in these neighborhoods. Doesn't mean we're part of the neighborhood. We live here. So you got a lot of people who live that's not a part of that neighborhood, but they live in that neighborhood, just get snatched up right along with the people who's part of that neighborhood. The ones that's going to be on that block. The ones that's going to run when they see them. The ones that they're trying to get off the streets. But look at the casualties of the people who live there who have to go through the same shit. Jump out squad, jumping out on your ass. Because they don't know the difference. You know, they don't know the difference. So you're going to have innocent involvement. There's people going to get jammed up in there and caught up in there. But these people that's doing it is never going to admit it. They don't never admit the shit. They will fight you tooth and nail knowing it's wrong. They don't care. It's a game to them. Winning is a game to them. Our court cases are just like a dog fight. Coming in with a rookie, you're going to get blew out. You know what I'm saying? You better know how to scratch. Because if you don't, you know, if you don't believe in your truth, then you plea out. Pleading out is not a cur out, it's a pick up. It's when you go sitting down talking about, let's make a deal so I can tell you about my boy. You know, I ain't no snitch, but, you know, I ain't trying to go to jail. I got family, I got this, I got that. But now, you know, you're already setting up the excuses to be a snitch. See, that's a cur. You see what I'm saying? Game bulldogs, they gonna keep scratching. And they ain't gonna mind going over there sitting down. Even when they in the right, they gonna be like, man, that ain't shit. I do 2 years standing on my head. You know, them the ones that, you know, they gone. But then you got them like me. Defiant. Always giving a hard time. Always stopping right there at the gate. No. You know what it takes to get in here. No, you welfare check. Okay, they all right. No, you don't need to see shit. You need to take my advice and my words that they're all right, because you're not coming in here to get them. If you guys don't understand that part, and this definitely goes to my visionaries. You know, you always hear me talking shit about y'all lackluster shit about leaving scarred up dogs on the yard. I mean, how in the hell do you let the police come in your yard and find a dead dog in the yard? The hell is wrong with y'all? You know what I'm saying? How could you even put a dog on the chain and be so caught up in that world just so you can talk shit about that dog, but you go to your yard, the yard smell like shit, the dog look like shit, and then when you finally get caught up by the popos and they looking at that shit like that, they're gonna look at you like you shit. And how do you beat that? When they're gonna just keep taking this picture doing this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Knowing that's your lack. You know, doing lack shit get you busted. Running a sloppy crack house usually get you raided. Selling some bullshit, get your murder charge now. Okay? See, there's a whole lot of shit going on now that wasn't going on back then, even though there was some shit going on. So yeah, I'm into my feelings because I hear too much of y'all talking about the past, you know what I'm saying, when there's no future without it. We sure as hell didn't have a future without it. You know, and it's really not, it's no difference. It's just the change is different. You know, there's definitely expectations, you know. I'm all in for doing the things that y'all doing because I don't want to see nobody get in trouble. The visionaries, hey, it's like that with them. You know, like I said, I call it like I see it. Visionarians, they are, you know, we got to say they got a problem. Yes, they have a problem. But didn't we all? No, and no, they will never understand us. We can be the cruelest people in the world. I mean, how do you cut that chicken's head off? You stick it through a thing and it's on YouTube. You know, why take a dog back then and he lose and you don't want to take him home, so what are you supposed to do with him? Okay, come on. Wonder what they was doing. Did anybody bother to ask anybody to write a story about that shit? No, they don't talk about it, do they? What do you do with the dog when they quit? Forget about him. Best you'll get out of me. I don't remember. I don't even know which one you talking about. I don't remember. Because that's how much matter it takes to put it into something that you don't got no more. Because it didn't work out. But let's get a little deeper into that. Twin, how did you do your dogs when you got rid of them? You don't never hear me say nothing about that, do you? Why would you ask then? Because if somebody asks you what you gonna be like doing, smoking a blunt, man, I'll strain their ass out like my big. I give me a bucket and a battery charger and hook that mother to a battery. Yeah. This is the kind of shit that goes on in the now. Visionarians. You let that slip out the basement, and now you got everybody, you know, bragging. You know, gotta behave. Gotta be aware that, you know, the visionarians, they are the ones that's got the night vision. So any heat that's coming on upstairs is going to definitely make it downstairs. Because but the downstairs is I mean, like I said, they already got a problem. Remember, I was one of them. You know, we ain't thinking about society. We thinking about, you know, what's down here between our legs. Gladiators, warriors. I mean, literally. They always talking like doing the dog. That damn dog want to fight. What the hell is you talking about? You know, I don't give a damn. You got to be in that right world to understand that. Nobody got to make these damn dogs do a damn thing. You know, and it's like back in our time, you know, when it was a community, you know, now we like Morocco mode now. We got to really be like, you know, pockets here, pockets there. But even in those pockets, it's so sloppy that you got things popping up on the news with guys right there at matches doing faces over the pit. You know what I'm saying? Come on now, who does that? You know, they want to be recognized that bad. You know? Or they're trying to do a pay-per-view from the show. If I was going to be doing a pay-per-view from the show, it'd be like the, what's that show, Mike? The one, do we be watching? Squid Games? Yeah, it'd be like Squid Games. Everybody would be running around with a mask on. You know what I'm saying? We'd be doing some Squid Game shit. For real. They wouldn't know where the shit's being broadcast at. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Mess around there and get me for Rico and what they call it when you operate a big old thing like that, man. That's Rico, yeah. Organization. All this governmental tapping in China and Korea. These dudes, you know these dudes fight dogs. You know, some of these places this shit be legal. Now, what if they start selling their CDs over here? And how many of y'all would take their CDs and duplicate them and sell them? You need to, before you, for those guys to get down, twin, that's a smart ass idea. Before you do it though, you better look at the law where you live. See, Ozzy and even Fat Bill, Fat Bill, he was damn near found guilty of promoting his shit. You know, different places, different people. Ozzy, Mr. Stevens, he went all the way to the Supreme Court. Mr. Stevens went all the way to the Supreme Court. And it was, you know, his thing was, you know, while they stepping on cats and squeezing little screaming puppies with high heel shoes, you know, they taking the dog fighting world and they trying to blend that into that crazy shit when it wasn't. He was selling videos of matches that were coming from overseas. You know? He might have some other charges that went along with that, but that was one of those charges, you know, where it, you know, you going cross state if I sold you something from Florida up to Ohio of a dog match that came from the Balkans. You know what I'm saying? Can I get charged for having that type of material? And what's on it? Is it like porn? I mean, kid porn? I mean, you know, there's all kind of porn out there, but you know, you can't have no porn and no kid. Does that mean you can't have no video or no dog fight? You know what I'm saying? Regardless of where it come from. It didn't come off your yard. But these are questions that y'all got to deal and ask of now. Because some of these guys are getting caught in these drug cases with dog matches on their phones. And see, what better witness than you being on the video? So guys, these are all the things that I want to speak up on. You know, I get a lot of underground questions from the guys, you know, wondering where is this headed. You know, the few and the proud are getting, you know, the proud is there, but it's been tainted. You know when shit start going wrong because everything start rotting away. Everything's becoming rotten. You know, there's nothing good being said about the dog game right now because everybody's trying to turn it into a commercial something. Everybody's trying to be something. Everybody's trying to prove something. Everybody then forgot this shit is illegal. Yet, even though you want to scream that you're trying to get it right, you still got shit that was part of your own bloodline because, believe me, without it, you wouldn't have it. So don't even try to feed me your bullshit. Stop right there before you get started, because I'm going to stop you right there. But don't be for this shit right here, you wouldn't have this shit up here. So stop it. What's your selling point? It's showing shit up here, because ain't shit done shit over here. You got to go way back here where it's going to interest me to talk about, okay, I can see how they bred that. I see how you kept it going. Okay, I'm interested. But I'm interested because what I'm catching back there ain't got nothing to do with your name. You're not Maurice Carter. And that's what the problem is in this game today. Too much promoting of yourselves. And why promote so strong? And why promote so hard? And why is it such a pissing contest when ain't nobody putting shit down? You know what I'm saying? And I'm, like I said, I'm back here looking like the Indian with a tear. Y'all done took my land and just shit all over it. Because that's what I see. You know? Is it fictional that most of these grand champions can't keep a grand champion? You got most 7-time winners and most 6-time winners and most 5-time winners that are just nothing but champions. You know? You got nothing but champions, you know, and this is coming through history. You know, at least you're not like Floyd and them, you know, they get the one-time lose and they still produce great dogs. No, these dogs right here, it's like a, you know, a fish. You know how the one fish comes and he grabs the little fish, and then while he grabs the little fish, another fish bigger than him come and grab his ass, and then when he get there, you know, another fish grab. Next thing you know, you got this big ass, hell of a goddamn half-ass whale going over grabbing this big ass fish. Boom! You know what I mean? That's how the dog game is. But each time they move up a level, they got gulped. Here's first level. Oh, you're looking good. Okay, then another thing, they go to the next one. Oh, No, got him. Go to the next level up. Got him. You might got way over here. And then big fish come and take you out. Whoo. You know, and you gotta remember now, the big fish, 90% of the time, the big fish been around waiting on you to get there. He been sitting up there prowling in the water like a shark, running in a circle. You just outside your diameter where you don't notice him, but he see you. He just waiting on your ass. Yeah, you look at it. Yeah, look at it. He confident like a motherfucker. And then the next thing you know, you hear the little internet world talking about it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Several of them. Visionary world ain't got no business upstairs, but you're like I said, this is that new community that is already paying attention to what's getting out. In the fictional world of lies, you know, we'll take the lies for what they're worth, right? Can't prove that they're telling you the truth, but let's just take it as a little worth of knowledge, or understanding. You know, it could be right until you buy it. Then you really know after a while, yeah, he was right. It's bullshit. You know, for real. But hey, guys, y'all asking me about the now? I'm telling y'all about the now. But look how I'm telling you. I ain't not have to put not one person down. Look at it, all makes sense. If you just keep hitting rewind into it and listen to exactly what's being told to you and said to you, then you know it's really up to you guys of where we going to be at. You know, sooner or later, you know, they always got this zombie nation going on, you know, waiting for these zombies us to start turning around and either one day we all wake up hungry, acting like pit bulls, running around here, jumping on each other, eating and biting the shit out of each other. Okay, it's just, you know, in this way of thinking, you know, I can guarantee you it won't be no pit bulls by the time you get to that. Guarantee you won't be no more pit bulls. The zombies will be the new pits. Because the pits are going to be pets. There ain't nothing wrong with no pet bull. Nothing wrong with it. Don't take that as being a shameful thing, especially if it ain't no pit dog. Okay? If it ain't a pit dog, then there's nothing wrong with calling them pet bull. I think it's safer to call them pet bulls because that signifies the fact that your dog is not in your possession for the purpose of dog fighting. See, it's hard to say pit bull, you know what I'm saying? Because they're always going to say, yeah, that damn dog fighting shit. No, but you start saying pet bull, you know, what's a pet bull? No, this is not a game dog. The pit bulls are game dogs. My dog is not a game dog. And if you start expressing and selling your dogs in that type of matter, probably won't bring the attention, you know, as far as the transporters and people trying to move dogs from one place to another. But y'all have to build a system to change the narrative. You know, and it's not enough togetherness in this world of dogs in this country, you know, knowing that the thumb is on you. It's on you. You know, we can all come together to these chat rooms. We can all come together on all those group things on Facebook. But what we don't have is a community and a central place for this community to do shit to save our breed. You know what I mean? We might have our own different ways in what we're trying to do and what you want to do, but there's something more important than any of that, and that is to save the game. You know, and the only way you're going to do that is you have to organize. Organize what? Well, anything you can do to organize and be prepared to be called dog fighters, a combination of dog fighters, past records and all that stuff, you know, because where your environment is, that's just your environment. So a lot, my record ain't that pretty. So, you know, that's where we from. I mean, god dang. You know, it's not going to be an unusual thing, but until we come together and stand on that, white, black, Latino, it should not matter. As a community, we got to stop being selfish and trying to be better than each other without matching a dog. You know, to me, without matching a dog, there is no true value to any of these dogs. You know, but guess what? Remember where I'm at. I'm back here in an era that, you had to put up to shut up. So, any questions, Mike? But guys, I hope y'all felt me today. You know, Mike usually get up here and preach. You know what I'm saying? You know, and today I felt like, I got a different way of coming at y'all with that shit. You know what I'm saying? I like to say my point of view on the most side. You know? And a lot of y'all, I hope y'all understand me and feel where I'm coming from. And I hope a lot of you guys is trying to step into this world of dogs, man. Pick your friends wisely, because you don't know nobody. Tell your stories wisely, especially when you're out here, because everything you say is hearsay unless it's being proved as fact. So don't say nothing that you have no business speaking on. There's facts under your statement. It's not wise to do, because everybody's not dumb. Be careful. All right, Mike.
Big shout out to my man, Johnny Rocket. Johnny said, and this was at Chico, and this thing has, for the most part, always been a secret society. That sort of changed in the 90s.
I don't think it changed in the 90s, because, in the 90s, the secret society, I mean, how can you hide it when you got DMX in them and everybody running around, pushing bulldogs? New Jacks. That was the New Jack era. What it did, it evolved into a whole different type of community. It wasn't the days of the Pete Sparks and, the top hats and the gentleman like shit. No, it didn't change into, New Jack City, big chains, big paper, you know what I'm saying? Big crowds, That's what was going on in the 90s. Now the 2000s, that's when it started getting a little shaky. That's when they started attacking the journals, and once they got the journals, they got a lot of the players. There's a lot of players in there. A lot of players, and they became targets. That was around in the 2000s. In the 90s, no. We changed the game from what it looked like back in Earl Tuesday and rewrote history. The Latinos and the brothers and a couple white guys. But the Latinos and the brothers, these are totally different people now. It used to be not calling this so-colored thing, I'm calling it the truth. It started off being their history. Earl Tudor was white. Reach Carver was white. Everybody writing the books was white. But in the 90s, you know, they add a little bit more color in a different little language. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, 2,000 matches in a year. Imagine that. Try to just to think of it. You know, the news people be like, "Did you hear this guy? Did you hear this guy?" They might have my shit on some news channel. 2,000 dog fights. Oh my God! But again, I would dare anybody stupid enough to sit there and say that when it's still, this is a podcast. You're going to take something that's literally coming out on this podcast is for the entertainment purposes and fictional, because 2,000 is a lot, but can you, I ain't even say I can prove that shit. I believe you to that, man. You want to jump on there and stay outside of that because that's what it is. But it's something to think about. It was in the journals. We see it. But these are still fictional stories because if they're not being read, then they're being said. And if they're being said, then it's still hearsay. So this is how I discuss all this, because I'm putting it in a place where y'all can feel safe to take it and take it for what it is and understand this is what it is. So it wasn't the 90s, around the 2000s when, you know, everybody was getting hit. It was a blitzkrieg all over the country. Canyon Valley, just a lot of great kennels. You know, and it didn't the attack really didn't begin until old boy got popped after Jack sold the journal to him. You know, he got jammed up, and I think them and their you know, them able to have the journal and then break that journal and all those years of those journals into a database. And then you have people like Ricky. You know, I mean, in 2000, I mean, shit was starting to get bad anyway, because, you know, when you're getting, look, everything's related to drugs. You know, the dog game did not bring the drugs into the game. The breeders brought the drugs into the game. Because drug dealers gamble. Whether they gamble on cars, ATVs, dice, cards, you know, they're already chance players. They're already gamblers. They're already been picked up on a fad that was going on in the 90s. DMX running around there, Big Boy and them running around there. But the real shit going down there where I'm at, where we playing at, that's the real world. You know, you got everybody running around in their video doing this shit. But you ain't gonna see no real dudes out there with their dogs doing none of this shit. We was out there making shit happen. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't nobody out there trying to be nobody but a winner. It's not that way anymore. You know, again. So, you just got to see it for what it is. I'm trying to give y'all a little education where y'all can at least have a chance. But the numbers, they're not 2,000 no more. It's barely a handful of those, you know, and then you gotta, after a while, you know who they are. Visionaries know who they are. All they have to do is not a whole bunch of y'all, so y'all gonna stand out like a sore thumb when you got a bunch of wannabeers that will sling your name out there just for the clout to say they know you. You know, and being the way shit is these days, that shit sounds pretty serious. So without a tight community and the understanding that, hey, everything at the gate understanding what that means, you should know what it means. Because that's where your risks in your stories and your fictional stories become factual stories. People being in places they have no business and they didn't even belong. So I'm going to leave it right there. If any more questions, guys, I'm going to give, me personally, I want to bring my books back in because I got some nice matches in these books, man. You know, that I like to talk about. I like looking at matches and us looking up the pedigree to some of them dogs. You know, we always grabbing pedigrees. But let's go through some of these journals and pick up some dogs that was bred good, you know, did good in the box, but, you know, let's see if they ever have a pass after that. And, you know, we see a lot of those dogs out there. We run across a lot of them, you know, champions and grand champions that, you look at this shit and there's nothing there. Well, shit, if it was left up to me, I wouldn't have had nothing there because a lot of my best dogs, I only got one litter out of because something always came up. You know, but just to think, you know, I wish I could have got more because the dogs that I did have, the dogs that was coming out, man, you can't argue and be mad about that. You know, and that goes for the guys who took the same dogs, man, and went out there and was doing their thing. You know, it made us worthy of being talked about. We didn't do it all on our own. Yeah, I was trying to see here. I was trying to see if a pedigree I had up there. That was Firecracker. I had Firecracker up here. I like him. There you go. Any questions, money?
Big shout out to my man, Mr. Hemi James in the house. Yo, show enough. I see you, fam. Yo, Tony, what up, fam? T2 Dang, what up, man? Big Doe, I see you, fam. Union City in the house, what up, fam? Racha in the house. What up, fam? Did you find what you looking for?
Oh yeah, I thought you said there was a couple comments. I thought you was.
Oh no, I just been pinning them up.
Yeah, I like the Firecracker. I have him up here. Okay, guys, hold on. I got this dog up here tonight, y'all. This is gonna be my dog of the night. Okay, before I close out, and the funny thing about these dogs, I'm gonna take you down here. This is how he bred. We're just talking about that dog. Yeah, he lost. But you know, when you go to the well too much, you know, this is what happened. You know, big fish finally get bit up by a new bigger fish.
236, he was game. He picked him up.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you why he was game dog though. He was rough, but you see, he lost his 8th to TK's. To Grand Champion TK. Picked up and ran their game courtesy at 236. Well, the only thing that I can tell you about his game is his top half. Because his top half was built with nothing but a bunch of game-ass dogs. His bottom half is the roughness. Too many people don't know about the old Jackson, Scrappy Doo, and all them dogs. This stuff right here, even the bottom, but this stuff right here. Oh, bargain. He beat Roadblocks champion Case and champion Munch. He went into Shiesty and lost, going up 2 pounds. But he was a loser, but he went into champions. You know, ain't that Mr. Shelby right there, Mike? The one old dude had on the show, Pro. Mm-hmm. And you can tell that's old. Look, Boss Man, way back here. Art and all them. Big old Geraldine. Victor before he got into the Mayday stuff. Victor used to be an Eli man. See, Victor wasn't no dummy even then. See what I'm saying? He used to be an Eli man. And remember who's the breeder? Victor Acart. Remember, he wasn't having no success like he had with Mayday, with these dogs. Couldn't seem to win the big ones, how he said. But look at the dogs that's in the pedigree. I said Victor used to be an Eli man.
He was having the same problem that we was. Yo, big shout out to MB4 Fire in the house. What up, fam? Yo, my man J-Rock. 735 coming through with a 20-piece. Showing them love. Appreciate the love, fam.
$25 years ago, this dog was born. History Channel. A gambler dog. What I mean by gambler, I mean a gambler's dog. No, that's one of them ones that came out of the New Jack era. Like I said, when 2000 came along, we still had great dogs out there, but some of these like line like this right here, you can find it, you'd be lucky. You know? They were Julie the Great. They got busted. You know, good breeding. Game Valley, they came and hit the scene. They was pretty tough to beat. If you look at the dog, that just show you how strong the Stone City dogs were as far as when I say they, you know, they had this certain buck stuff, this certain traits that just kept showing up, especially the combination. Buck and Yellow, the very same shit that created these dogs, you find the same kind of lineup in the Mayday dogs, and all had that Patrick stuff in it that showed this certain characteristics. You just can't be denied. You don't even have to be Mayday. Just the traits, they show up. With all this extra shit down here, from here on down, yet you still see these strong traits. Just pointing out that, guys, because it took him to breed his shit to make that bitch an ROM. Put all the credit into the breeder. $1996. Okay. It's my dog of the night. Okay, Mike, you want your final words?
Yeah, I'm out again here. All right, fellas. Again, it's Friday night. Appreciate everybody for showing up and everything. You feeling a little better now?
Yeah.
I mean,
I've been sick, y'all, lately.
Yeah. So I told you sometimes it just pays to just step away for a second. Because we was right here to do the show Tuesday, and it just wasn't going to happen. So.
I went down.
Yeah, he went down. And he tried to, but I was not. At that point in time, I was like, no, let it go, man. They can afford a day. And appreciate everybody who was reaching out, talking about what happened. Oh, boy said, man, he felt like a crackhead. Somebody wait on this and didn't nobody show up. He was like, he felt like a crackhead outside a crack house. Ain't nobody at home. You know.
I feel you, though. Yeah, that's right.
I understand where y'all coming from. You know, it be like that sometimes. But look, man, here's the thing. When we get on this show, we talk about our past, and you know, Mo, he gets deep into shit, and again, it's always gonna be based off of experience and opinion. But then another thing is, we ain't dumb to life. So when you know, to understand that, you would have to live a certain type of life. Some of these things, if you've never been in seeing a great match or what is considered a great match, then you wouldn't know what a great match looked like. And or you might have been there and seen a great match and didn't know it was a great match. Because you was just there, you know, it just be like that. Unless you are from or you are familiar with certain things, some things you just dumbfounded to. And when you've lived life the way you understand that, you know, it helps us try to give people an idea of which way to go when you're doing things. You know, because again, it's always going to boil down to people have their own minds and own, you know, they do what they want to do. But when you are trying to express things, you know, like somebody probably told you a long time ago, something else I always say is, if they tell you something and you don't utilize it, and you be like, damn, he told me to do it, and I just didn't do it, and something bad happened. You know, it's not that you forgot what the person said. No, because if you forgot what the person said and when the shit got bad, that wouldn't have been the first thought that came to your mind. It wouldn't have been. The fact is, you heard what he said, you knew what he said, but you chose to do something different. So when it all go bad, that memory shocks you right back into reality, because for that moment, it took you to be in some shit to realize what that person told you, they were really right. And we all, you know, from my understanding is, sometimes y'all don't understand these things until you get older, or you got to experience things in life, because all of us had to be young at some point, and all of us had to go deal with somebody's rules, whether it was mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, somebody raised your ass. So at some point, we all understand the do's and the don'ts. It's just when you get older, you know, you start looking at certain things like, you know, I remember growing up, man, the neighborhood raised your ass. Primarily. You know, I'm over so-and-so house and everybody communicating between parents wise, and it's my kid over there, yeah, tell them to bring their ass home type of shit, you know. But as generations change, hell, they lock you up for beating your kid's ass, but my kids out there beating up on people. Well, you can't beat up on them. Wait a minute. How is somebody going to tell me how to discipline my child? See, them times don't change, because I'm disciplining my children. My mom and dad disciplined me. I tell my kids, it ain't everybody's business what you do with your kids, but you want to be safe. Did you backtalk me? You did exactly what I told you to do. You know, look how your life turned out. Damn that bullshit. Stick to what works. You better be whooping their ass. Or you can just bring them over here and I'll do it for you. You know, but again, discipline is something that was embedded in the people. I mean, it was a part of life. But things change, man. And when them changes come, things look different. And that's what the dog game does for us. You know what I mean? You know, through all the rage and all the old dog men who done experienced this shit, been through it, been to these court cases, yeah. We're not saying we exempt from the fact of what was going on then. But there's a difference now. Like I told you, man. I've been through a lot of shit, and I ain't never seen nobody standing around the box holding a cell phone recording what was going on. Just never seen it. I always seen somebody checking in phones, somebody searching, somebody was doing something to protect everybody, you know, while they was there. That was just why it changed. I don't know, but I'm just saying what we talk about was in the past. It's almost like people forgot this shit was illegal or something. You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes we acted like it wasn't, but we have faith, you know, into based on the community gonna take care of you.
And most of the time they did. So, can't say that now. Because you don't know that now. You know, people ain't handling it the same way. People don't understand the risk. See, we talk about the past, and then we can bring y'all all the way up to the future because we still living. It's not like we don't know what the hell is going on. So don't take it as us knocking it, but just telling you from our standpoint how things happen and why they go wrong and how does it get better. You know, we don't know how it gets better. We can only tell you that at this point in time, that is it actually even worth it, considering treadmills and breaking sticks and papers and all kind of crazy shit going on, people making up shit, people, I mean, just everything is almost looking hectic. Because at least in our time, there was real players. You remember what they call it, the beeline, what they call it, the beeline? You remember how we did that show on how everybody in the community reacted to the bullshit the beeline had pulled? And all the inputs, and then you read all the inputs, but then look at the names on the petition. You see a lot of great Doberman's names on that petition. You know, the community did have some type of structure then. That's all I'm saying. Some type of structure. And then you did have, you know, everybody had their little journals, but them journals was there for the recognition, you know, for the sport. That's all. You know, and they were putting some type of responsibility into protecting, you know, not everything was true, but they did try to make it that way. Even getting a damn subscription, you had to know somebody to even get it. So it wasn't like you could just all of a sudden you wanted the journal. No, you better have somebody that got some kind of clout to even get the damn thing. So, but times change, and because of those changes, y'all at where y'all at. There's no way it could ever be like it was then, because ain't nobody trying to do it as much as we were doing it then. So to us, you're not going to get the same type of dogs. There's no way you can. How? We had a litter of 8, and out of the 8, 4 made it out. Okay, 4 made it out, and said the other 4 went to good homes. That should tell you something there. Not everything's going to make us. How do you know the difference? Well, the 4 that we set out the other homes, they became pit bulls, and the ones that over here, they became matchdogs. The 4 that made it out, they wasn't worthy of the 4 that made it. We talk about them other 4, no, they got good homes. They don't have no business over here. There's no purpose when we put that tag on them out there. Over here is what we concentrating on. The things that have proven itself that we feel that we can go out and perform amongst the big guys. Or the people that's, you know, in that lane. I thought we ran in a pretty big lane. You know. So that was the importance of why we did the things we did. Not telling you guys to do what we did, because our purpose ain't supposed to be nothing like y'all purpose. And if it is like our purpose, then we don't have no business talking about it, and then that's something you need to keep to yourself. That's all. Because, you know, there's no fame in this until after the work has already been done. And when that fame starts showing up, you better be done. You know, that's all I'm saying. At least you got real papers with a real dog and you made it. Maybe you ain't got no papers, you know.
That's the crazy thing. If it don't have no papers, where you supposed to go from there? Just the fact that it's so and so, and that's it.
You know how you're separated.
You know. But again, it's always going to be a toss up when you're dealing with life. But in the same token, you take the good with the bad, but you just understand times are different, and just make the best out of the situation. And togetherness doesn't hurt. That's all. So until Tuesday, man, you're gonna do your dog in the night thing, and I'm gonna go ahead and get us out of here while we do our thumbs up and stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna get us together right quick. Yeah, let me make sure everything over here cool.
Man, I don't know why nobody asked me no questions. I got one question.
You know.
I ain't had no comments. You wouldn't read the comments.
No, because everybody basically comment the same thing. And I try not to. Y'all know why. I mean, I be watching y'all and I be checking out the chat and I see your comments and everything. Hey, I know I got grown folk out there. Y'all know what the situation is and y'all know what it is and y'all know what this shit looks like. You know, so I appreciate everybody for showing up and your comments because I seen them all. But then all that does is tell me I ain't trying to light his fire to where, you know, he's going to spend most of the show because everybody who commented, that's their opinion and they're right. We're not here to be justifying anything that we did. We're just trying to tell y'all what we did and this is how it was. And for the people who live back there, they know damn well if they was back there, they know what the hell was going on back there too. Now, I don't know how much older than them, if I'm older than them or younger than them. But then if they were back there and they was, you know, around those type of things and that's where they learned from, then it is what it is. At least they lived through a time period that way they can say, I know what the 80s looked like. I might have been a little boy. Well, in the 80s, we was considered grown. You know what I'm saying? By the 90s came, we was real grown. So just keep them things saying, all right, some of them people in that chat, they know what we talking about. But the people that's in the now, the people that's in them, you know, 30s, 20s, and 30s, just getting into these dogs, they don't have that spot like the Jeeps and, you know, some of the other dogs. You still see Stone City dogs and STP dogs and Mancho Bucks. And I mean, remember, still some of these dogs still back at our time, but then they be talking and considering anything from that far back to now. It's kind of like, you know, faces change, but the names ain't. Now, how long will that last? It's not going to last long, gentlemen. We might say a lot about Tudor's Daibo, but guess what? We're not going to find Tudor's Daibo in the first generation papers. If you happen to find him in some first generation papers, run. You know what I mean? And then check the person that showed you the damn papers, you know, because I'm just saying, shit's crazy like that nowadays. So, make it, you know, the community always controlled its future. I put it like that. The community really did have control of the future. And I can't tell you who's to blame for anything. Because it's like anything else, when you have an addiction, you're not looking for the blame. You're looking for the fix. And that was just a different type of game, that's all. So, understand that. Learn from it. If you don't do anything from the conversation, just learn something. Don't become a victim of circumstances because of a pit bull. And understanding that, at least you're making you have at least some type of decision on, is this what I want to really do? Because if you really want to do the right thing with these dogs, the majority of the time you're going to be doing good things because you're true to the game. But if you're you got to doctor papers and take people's money, if you're one of them type of people, then you're in the perfect game for it, because there's a sucker born every day. And you already know how I feel about that. There's one of them every day. So that comes with the territory. If you've lived it, you already know that. But only the strong survive. So if you don't know, you need to know. Because you don't want to be doing nothing that you don't know what you're doing. That's all. Just be smart. Learn the laws. Turn the cameras on. All the little things that y'all think, oh, I'm grown. I mean, hey, man. Take it for what it's worth. That's all. Just take it for what it's worth. And protect yourself. Now, if you enjoyed the show tonight, help me out here. Show me some love, because I want to give a big shout out to everybody who donated to the channel tonight, because, again, it's without you guys, without y'all even showing up, y'all make it hard for us not to show up, because you show the love. So, one more time, before we get out of here tonight to join this weekend, give me some thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Muscles, muscles, muscles. Now, give me some damn roses, roses. We need them damn roses. Show some love, man. And then on top of all that, man, hey, as a community, and I see everybody, y'all know what's going on, y'all know what's happening. Have some integrity about some of the things, you support. I seen this thing going around about 100 men beating the damn gorilla. I'm pretty sure, I think that's what they call going viral. But that question went viral. And I out of all, I heard so many different people trying to get down and try to actually figure this shit out. 100 men against one gorilla, and ain't nobody got no gun. So I'm taking it like, how many, I just thought the simple part, first of all, who want to be the first one that's going to go jump on the gorilla? I want to know that dumbass. I want to know, how many is it going to be 25 of them? Is it going to be 10, or is it going to be like 4, 5 of them like inching in, and they wait until the gorilla started ripping them 4 apart before they all decide to go jump in, and how many of them going to jump? See, being an old school person and growing up in a certain type of lifestyle, for me, my thing was always, get the one who talking the most. By the time you take care of that one, I guarantee you, if you got 3 or 4 with him, 2 of them going to run. The one that's left going to be there picking their boy up and taking him with him. That right there was the reality checks. I don't call it checking in. I just call it taking care of your business. That's just the way you wage shit. It wasn't always about the click, click, click shit. You know what I'm saying? There was a time that we used to have to fight. Get a swollen eye or a bloody nose or some shit. Get your knuckles. You ever hit a person and you break your knuckles? Hand all swelled up and shit. Shit be like, you can't do nothing. Fat fingers and shit. Them was the days. I just think them days was so much better than the gun days we got. Now we got switches on guns. I mean, we done got high tech with it. And what is that serious going on? Shit got to go down like that. Well, dog game ain't no different. I mean, hell, I know Maurice was doctoring up papers and everybody did it, but I mean, we still talk about Maurice Carver. That's all I'm saying. You just got to be the right person, You can get away with that shit. I didn't even think Victor was doing it, but who? I mean, still, you had the product. I mean, shit. Just getting the damn dog from him was enough. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? I don't know too many other people who got that kind of status to even be able to pull that shit off to where you would actually be wanting to buy that shit. You know, I'm just saying. You got that. I'm gonna take care of this over here. Appreciate the love, fellas. I see you. Hey, yo, my dog in the night. I just want to show y'all his daddy before I leave. McVeigh. Look how close he looks like a Mayday dog. Y'all see that? That's his breeding. Me personally, I always thought McVeigh didn't have a body. Just let y'all know that. I think I do know what I'm talking about on that one. McVeigh wasn't bred that much though anyway, though. Nope. There was a son of him that we beat with Buck Rogers. Yeah. Little Brindle man. Don't forget Mother's Day. Love your mother. Happy Mother's Day to all my boys out there. To all the mothers out there. Enjoy your period.